I'm in Catawba, Wisconsin on December 19th, 2017. And thanks to Mark, who grew up in Catawba, we're going to try to learn a little history on some of the buildings that we're looking at. So basically, what Mark remembers from his childhood and beyond, and from reading from some of the different history sources, there are a few small discrepancies, but we're going to try to get as close as we can to what we think actually these buildings were. Now, looking at the building on the right, that is a store, and Mark said as long as he can remember it always was a store. Kind of a general store with clothes, you could buy hardware, you could buy groceries, and he said way back when it also housed the post office when the Democrats were in office. And just to the left of the store, the building that you see is unoccupied. Most recently was the offices of a recycling business. And he thinks it was originally the State Bank of Catawba and then became the Catawba branch of State Bank of Phillips. And for many years, the back half of the building was the post office. During most of the years that the post office was there, the mail came in by train, and they received mail twice a day. And the second building to the left of the store is now the post office, and it has living quarters in the back and upstairs that are presently unoccupied. And before becoming the post office, it was a tavern and restaurant. And to the left of the post office, we can see a building that's been torn down, and that used to be one of the 3 stores that was in town. You used to be able to buy clothing, groceries, and pretty much anything else. Then it turned into a grocery and antique store, and then most recently, it was a collectibles and antique store. And now just to the left of the building that was torn down, we have the town hall building, and that was built by the town of Catawba in around 1921 or 1922, and it wasn't finished at that time. And around that time, it also held the firefighting equipment when it was horse-drawn. It was leased by the VFW in the 50s, but when they couldn't afford upkeep, they turned the lease back over to the town of Catawba. Eventually, the town sold the building to the Jump River Historical Society, and it's now their museum. And looking at the building, I can just imagine horse-drawn fire equipment sitting in there. But moving on, in the blue building right next to it, that's kind of hidden by the tree right now, that is the Village of Catawba Hall and Catawba Harmony Fire Department. And Mark thinks that was built in the early 60s. And we'll just get around this tree here. Actually, the temperature today wasn't too cold. I think we were right around 27, 29 degrees. But we really had some high winds. I think the winds were 17 miles an hour with higher wind gusts. Just about the limit of what I'll fly in, but everything went okay. And here we're kind of looking at the fire department right there, the building. And right next to the fire department is the Lutheran Church. And that was built starting about 1905. And that's a pretty nice looking church there. You can imagine all the people that have gone to that church over the years. And moving on then, we're going to see the Catawba Elementary School, and that was grades 1 to 8. It was built in 1957, and he figures they moved in January of 58, right after the 57 Christmas vacation. And it's been added on to a couple of times since, and it's probably about twice as large as it originally was. At the present time, it's being remodeled to become an assisted living facility, so there is no school going on there anymore. And we'll move right along here. And we're going to take a quick look. This here, the farm that's coming up is the Lee Farm. And it showed that it was in 1900 and 1905. It was the Lee Farm, and it still is. So that would make it a century farm. So congratulations, Lees. And now if we look at this white house here, this actually was a house that was built by the Lutheran minister about the same time the church was built. And it's one of the first homes built in Catawba. And now we're going to continue on down the road. I think we're going to pass a couple residential houses. But I'm going to start narrating on what we're going to look at next. A little ways down the road, we're going to see two buildings that are presently an auto repair business. It's owned and run by the grandson of the prior owners. And Mark said when he was young, the front of the building was a grocery store, gas station. And he said that's now the office and parts store for the repair business. And the Quonset hut behind the building was and is the repair shop. And he thinks that some of the history, if he understands it correctly, was part of the building was the first school that was moved across the highway, which was just a dirt road then, to this site and became the Catawba Town Hall before the other building was built in 1921 and before the village incorporated. He said incorporation happened about the same time as the new hall was being built and caused a lot of problems between the new village and town. Yep. So politics never changes. We can see the buildings right now. We can see the Quonset hut in the back there. And that is now a repair shop. And owned by the grandson of the prior owners. And the next building we're going to see was at one time a barber shop as well as a living quarters. And Mark thinks it was something else too because he remembers that only half the front of the building was a barber shop. At one time it was a jukebox and arcade game business, and it was also a surplus store where you could buy all sorts of usually small, cheap merchandise, tools, knickknacks, and such. But before Mark's time, it was actually a livery stable. And now we're going to look at the building on the corner that was known as the hotel. And although Mark can't remember it, it was at one time a restaurant and ice cream parlor. And then for a while it was a veteran's home. And then it went to a private residence. And then it changed to a convenience store. And now it's back to a private residence again. And now coming around the corner, the first building we see used to be a private residence, but it's a hair salon. And to the left of that, according to his memory, he thought that was a private residence, but part of it was a post office at one time. And if we go a little further on down the road, we're going to see what looks like a little garage down there. And it's not that little building there, but at one time, one of the three taverns in town used to be in that spot. So let's go a little further down the road, and we're going to cross some railroad tracks. And what we're starting to come upon here used to be a recycling business, and that business is closed. But this also used to be the site of a cheese factory and whey drying plant. And the old cheese factory building was to the left of the present front building, about where the semi-trailers are parked, and the whey plant was behind it. And we just got to look at the recycling center that was closed, and we're going to do a little swing around here and start looking on the other side of the road. So I'll try to do it a little bit slow so nobody gets dizzy and falls out of their chair. I hate that when that happens. Actually, the day when I started narrating this video here, we had 20 below this morning. And the day before, when I was lucky enough to get the errands done, it was only down to 15 below. So it was a little bit warmer. Now, if we start looking at the buildings from the bottom and we go 3 buildings up, we see the building was the Village Hall, and that was from about the time of incorporation until the current building was built. And the building was built as the modern Woodman Lodge Hall, and the village rented it from the lodge until the lodge disbanded, and at that time, Mark assumes the village bought it. And now we're coming up in a little building here, and let's see how I can describe it. It's kind of the long one, the first long one we see, and that's where the fire truck was parked until the present building was built. And now, if you look on the screen there, kind of on the left side there, you'll see a building with a brown roof. And that is a private residence, but it was once a general store, and when the Republicans were in office, it was a post office. And kind of in the background, right behind that, we see a repair shop. So we'll kind of spin around the corner here. And that building is a repair shop now, an auto repair shop. Started out as a John Deere sales and service shop, with auto repair and a gas station being added at some time. And there we get a good look at it. And now we'll move along. And what we're going to see here started out as a feed and grain mill, and it was built in the late 50s or early 60s. And I guess they still sell some feed, but now it's mainly gas and a convenience store. And you can see all the happy people picking up some fuel there. And now we're going to have to swing around again, and we're going to go up the other side of the road, so make sure your shoes are tied tight and hold on to your hat. And let's get this thing swung around. There, that wasn't so bad. You can see someone had some fun in the back field there. And now looking at the the building with the blue roof down there, to the best of Mark's knowledge, that's always been a tavern. In the building to the left of the house, from his earliest memories, that was a radio and TV repair shop. Back in those days, I used to repair that stuff. Then it changed to a dress shop for a while, and then it was sort of a youth center. At least that's where he said the youths hung out. And it might have been something else too, but now and for quite a few years, it's been the owner's storage building. And now continuing on, that'll take us right back to the store. And I just want to take this time to thank Mark for all the research he did and all the information he sent me and the great pictures so I could realize where all the places were that I was looking at. But, it looks like Catawba is a little black and white town in the wintertime. There's not much color. So I decided to grab some of the video I made from July 31st and look at how nice and green it is. This is flying over the same area. We just went over the repair shop. We're coming up to the gas station now. Gas station and feed mill. And look at all the green trees. It's quite a big difference from the white snow. And we can see on the right-hand side, the tavern. And there's the storage building there. It's being used for a storage building now. Down below, we can see the store on the right-hand side. We can see the auto repair shop on the left-hand side. Post office down below, the building they tore down, the museum on the right-hand side, the fire department on the right-hand side, the auto repair shop on the left-hand side, the Lutheran church on the right-hand side. And, we won't be able to see the school quite yet. But we can see the house that the Lutheran minister built, and we can see the Lee farm there. And there's the old school. I think it was 1st to 8th grade, I believe, was in there, and it's now becoming an assisted living. And I believe we have an auto repair shop on the right-hand side coming up, where you see the Quonset hut. And you can see the fire department on the left-hand side. And there's a museum we just passed on the left-hand side. Building they tore down, the post office. And now going out of town there, we can see the salon. We can see the recycling place up ahead here. So if you ever don't have anything to do and you're sitting around doing nothing, hop in your car and go visit one of these small towns. It doesn't matter whether it's spring or summer or winter or fall. Just get out and visit them. Look at all the history that is in each one of these towns. The people that have grown up and lived in these small towns, that's what makes America great. So thanks for coming along in this little history lesson, and I want to thank Mark again. You can come up during Christmas time and see Mark's Christmas light display that he sets up every year. Or you can go to YouTube and you can watch them for this year and just look up Catawbas Christmas Lights. There's also a couple famous YouTubers. I bet you they wouldn't mind if you'd watch their video too and maybe give them a thumbs up. Just look up Catawbas famous YouTubers. And just a reminder, the best way to watch my videos are on a big screen TV through YouTube with a resolution set at 1080p. See you next time.